Las Leñas, Argentina was featured in a ski video when I was a kid. It was the first time that I realized you could ski or snowboard outside of North America or Europe. It's not the easiest South American resort to get to, but I finally made it. Let's go over some pros and cons so you can decide whether or not you'd like to come too. The first con. Las Leñas is a bit more difficult to get to than other ski resorts in Argentina and many in Chile. If you're coming from North America or Europe, Las Leñas is like any other ski resort in Argentina. There are no direct flights. You'll have to fly first to Buenos Aires, which is an overnight flight, and then transfer to the domestic airport, which is an hour-long trek through the city. For resorts like Cerro Catedral or Cerro Chapelco, there are multiple flight options per day. So you can theoretically connect the same day you arrive in Argentina. But for Las Leñas, you have to fly to San Rafael, and there's sometimes only one flight per day. So logistically, it's harder. My flight from New York arrived too late in the day, so I spent the night in Buenos Aires, which can be a bonus if you take advantage by wandering the streets of Palermo Soho, where you can't help but remember, yes, you're now in Argentina. You can shop, have a lazy empanada snack, and for dinner, hit the famous Don Julio Steakhouse, as long as you've made advanced reservations. They book up early. The steak is delicious, but actually 3 times as expensive as when I ate there 5 years ago. It's no longer a bargain, but it may still be worth it, particularly if you tour their wine cellar, where the oldest bottle is from the 1930s and costs $20,000. But back to the connecting flight. When you get to the domestic airport, there will be lines, my friends, so prepare yourselves. I've always viewed them as more daunting than at US airports, but that's probably because I don't speak Spanish. This time though, I bought a premium ticket for the baggage allowance, and the premium check-in line was so much shorter. That's a huge time-saving tip if you can spend the extra money. There's also an overnight sleeper bus from Buenos Aires to Las Leñas if you want to avoid this flight, but it can take 14 hours. And my preference was a 1.5-hour flight to San Rafael, followed by a 2.5-hour ground transfer to the resort, for a total of 8.5 hours of travel time, including a 1.5-hour flight delay. So it really should be shorter than 8.5 hours. As you can tell from the airport, San Rafael is relatively small, and finding a ground transfer was another step making Las Leñas a bit more challenging. Some companies I contacted were no longer running transfers. I ultimately emailed the resort, which connected me to a ground transfer company called Logística Segura. At the time, a shared transfer cost $100 round trip, and a private transfer was $560 round trip. Shared transfers are only offered on certain days, and I was traveling on off days, so I had to go with the private transfer. An alternative is to rent a car from San Rafael. I looked into it, and the cost was about the same as a private transfer. So if all you're doing is going to Las Leñas and back, a car may not make that much sense, particularly because while many of the roads at Las Leñas are heated, snow and ice still build up at certain areas, so you really need chains. Why put up with that when you're not saving money or gaining convenience? Las Leñas is a comparatively young resort, having opened in 1983. It has a reputation among Argentinians as being posh and expensive, but they'll also tell you that the buildings and facilities are old, and they are lying. Many of the buildings are original, and from what I've heard, have had minimal renovations over the years. But walking into the lobby of the Hotel Aquario makes you question that. Either way, on hotel booking websites, they all seem to have the ubiquitous 3-star rating. And then you had that one very modern-looking building when you load the Vesta chairlift, Hotel Virgo, the exception. A relatively new 5-star luxury hotel with a design that breaks from the diagonal roofs of the other hotels. A lobby full of couches. There are 2 stores, and if you don't get enough of a workout on the slopes, a fitness center. So how much does it cost to stay at this hotel and be a part of the Las Leñas elite? $700 a night when I was here. The opposite side, the Hostel Leñas. Me, not being enamored with either, I went with a $250 a night apartment rental, the Chalet Milla. This was the most updated rental I could find. Microwave, portable stove, toaster oven, able to sleep 4, but with only 1 bathroom. It worked out well for me. And the bonus? It was right next to the supermarket. More on that later though. So what's the best accommodation option for you? Well, the bus stops at the resort have a really good map. So let's use that to get a sense of the layout. The main base is right about here. So if you're looking for a ski-in, ski-out hotel, you'll want to focus on the Hotel Escorpio, Hotel Aquario, and Hotel Virgo. The Hotel Piscis is definitely ski-out, but you'll have to walk uphill on the snow to get back at the end of the ski day. Apartment rentals are a bit further from the slopes, with some a short walk and others about 10 minutes away. Cirrus, the furthest away, has its own designated bus. there are blue and green buses that service the other apartment rentals. But to give you a sense of how far these walks are, it took me about 7 minutes to get from Chalet Mia to the base, so it wasn't that bad. Accommodations aside, you don't come all that way to spend time at a luxury spa at a ski resort, right? You're here for the mountain. The mountain itself is a pro. And although it's comparatively smaller than some South American ski resorts, Las Leñas may be the best, at least for what I like. And that's extremely advanced terrain. The top of the mountain, which unfortunately is frequently closed due to wind, is so easily accessed via the Marte chairlift and has so many incredible lines that you don't normally find inbounds at a ski resort. More Orpiste-like expert terrain than Cerro Catedral and Cerro Chapelco in Argentina, and Portillo and Valle Nevado in Chile. One thing to keep in mind when scheduling a vacation here is that advanced skiers and boarders can complete the mountain in a day or less when the top is closed. If the top is open, it may take up to 2 days. To give you a quick sense of the mountain, here's a sample slope to the skier's right of the Volcano chairlift on the right side of the trail map. The Volcanito. This is 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning in early August. Not a lot of people out yet, so there's a little bit of corduroy. And this is a red slope, so advanced. And now it opens up a little bit more, makes a nice wider turn in the nice corduroy. For all you early risers, while the mountain opens at 9 a.m., it's not fully in the sun at that point. It takes about until 9:30, at least in August. So if you want to be first out, you'll be in the shade. To see more of what it's like to ski or board Las Leñas, you can check out a video I posted. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. As I sit here alone on the Caris Quad chairlift, I would put lift lines in the pro column. I've been skiing Sunday through today, which is Thursday, and the lift lines have been pretty good every day, except Sunday. That was when there were the most lines, predictably after a major snowfall on a weekend, but the worst line was no more than maybe 7 or 8 minutes. And that was predominantly at the Volcano lift because the top was closed. I think you'll find the most crowds at the Minerva and Venus chairs, which is where intermediates and beginners will concentrate. Those lines might take you a few minutes. For advanced, intermediates, and experts, the lines tend to jump around depending on what areas have been newly opened. For example, if Volcano is closed and then it opens, you're going to get a big line there. Same thing with the Marte chairlift to the top. For some reason, the Caris chairlift tends never to have that big a line. And again, I don't want to scare you by talking about those lines. The majority of the week has been no problem. Why would the lack of a town at Las Leñas be a pro? Well, hear me out. First, what I mean by no town is that all you have for miles are the collection of buildings at the base. When you think of Breckenridge or A-Basin in Colorado, you have Silverthorne and other towns which are pretty large that are right nearby. Jackson Hole has Jackson. Las Leñas has just a few buildings at the base for miles. So there is no larger town you can stay at and drive to. I acknowledge that some want additional activities as an alternative to the slopes, because what if it rains? What if it's too foggy? What if one person in your group doesn't really ski or board? Having a town creates options. And one trend that has been picking up in recent years are ski towns with crazy après-ski scenes. France, Italy, Switzerland. Aspen now tries to emulate it. The same with Big Bear in California. It can get to the point where people who don't even ski or board will come just to party and post photos on IG or TikTok. It creates a whole different dynamic. Everything becomes more expensive due to higher demand, accommodation, meals, shopping. Even the character of the resort changes a bit. Don't get me wrong, I love those scenes and enjoyed them myself, at least in Europe. But the lack of a true town to support the evolution from ski scene to party scene means that Las Leñas is probably resistant to that trend and may remain a resort that's perfect for families and purists. And in my book, that's pretty cool. Come here and focus on the sports you love with the people you love. There are plenty of other options for the party scene. Before I give you the wrong impression, there is an après-ski scene here at Las Leñas. It's just not going to be as wild and crazy as you get in Europe. It's typically found at the base of the mountain near UFO Point. Sometimes it's outside, they have a big screen up, people are dancing. It may be bigger on the weekends than it is during the week, and sometimes it moves inside to UFO Point. Many of the hotels certainly have bars and lounges where you can indulge in a drink after skiing. You're just not going to find the madness you might find somewhere else. At first, I was going to put ski and snowboard rentals in the con column because I brought my own skis, but given the amount of snow, I wanted to rent powder or at least thicker skis. After looking around, that wasn't an option, at least that I could see. Nor were demo-level skis or boards like you might find out west in the US or in Europe. However, I noticed that most people here seem to rent skis and boards. And even though they're not demo-level, there does seem to be a fair number of rental shops for such a small, isolated resort. So I'll put ski and snowboard rentals in the pro column. The lack of good groceries for those renting apartments is more than made up for by the variety of restaurants, which I put in the pro column. You have El Viejo Bodegon on the left side of the Las Leñas shopping center, and Lazo Bar and Pool is on the right side. Across the street, closer to the slopes, is Bracero, a buffet restaurant that really is like a standard cafeteria-style ski restaurant. There's also UFO Point, Innsbruck, and Hell's Pizza, all right next to each other on the slopes. For those who like late night diner style, El Parador is down on the main road and is open past 10 p.m., which is impressive for such a small ski village. And then you have the Virgo. As you'd suspect, it tries to escalate the game with its offerings, including Sushi Club, which a skier from Cordoba on the lift recommended to me. This meal, which included a Coke and a caipirosca, cost about $60 US. So similar to what you might expect in New York, but pretty expensive for a regular town. But the Nigiri Fuego Thai, oh, it was so good. If you check online, Las Leñas apparently has close to 40,000 skiable acres. For perspective, Snowbird and Jackson Hole each have 2,500. So does a resort with several chairlifts and multiple pommelifts have 40,000 skiable acres? It's safe to say no. After 5 days here, I'd say it's close to the size of Snowbird, probably a little bit bigger, with terrain when the top is open that is so much better than anything Snowbird has to offer. The mountain has something for everyone. Total flats for beginners, good intermediate terrain, standard expert runs, and that top. When it's open, it basically gives you hors-piste type terrain that's in bounds. To ski or board the most extreme terrain at the top, you have to go through a couple of entry points where they may check to make sure that you have a shovel and probe. This next pro is probably only relevant to Argentinians. YPF Survey Club is all over the place. You see the logo everywhere. Apparently YPF is a utilities and energy company in Argentina, and I guess if you belong to their loyalty program, you can take advantage of a lot of perks around the resort. There seem to be separate warming huts, there may be discounts, there's a separate storage area. Honestly, I'm sure it's a national club and they're present at all the resorts. They're certainly present here. Next is a con that's probably only relevant to North American and European Epic and Icon Pass holders. Like pretty much every resort in South America, Las Leñas does not accept either pass. So bring your credit cards or some cash because you're gonna have to pay for a lift ticket. I actually don't view this as that much of a negative because Epic and Icon passes in North America and Europe become overrun with all the pass holders. So with more challenging travel logistics and the lack of accepting a pass, Las Leñas becomes more of a true Argentinian ski and snowboard experience. Shopping could be either in the pro or the con column. Con because you're not going to find as many stores as you would at a mega resort, but in the pro column because as I walked around, I was actually surprised how many there were. There's a shopping center with some stores on different levels. You walk outside, there's 26 Shop, which is just across the street, really close to the base, and random places I'll suddenly see a store. So given Las Leñas' size and how isolated it is, we'll put it in the pro column. The options for eating on the mountain are definitely a pro. In addition to all the restaurants that you have at the base of the Minerva lift, you have a restaurant called Minerva. At the top of the same chairlift, you have a restaurant called Olympus. Further over to the left of the trail mat, just up the hill from the base, underneath the Vesta lift, you have La Rita, which is a pretty spacious restaurant and gives you a great view of the base on the outside. And then on the left side of the trail mat, at the top of the Neptuno chairlift, you have the Marta restaurant. It's got some great outdoor seating, and when I was there, just burgers and ham sandwiches and some side dishes. Let's suppose it's a day that the top is closed and the mountain is basically the size of a large northeast resort in the United States. How many of those resorts have 4 dining options in addition to the base? That's why this is a pro. This con is specific to those who get an apartment rental and want to cook for themselves. There's just one supermarket in the entire village. There are a couple of drugstores scattered about, but they generally just have chips, candy, maybe some beer and wine, and that's about it. The grocery store is pretty small. It has more than the drugstores, but not much. Great selection of wine and beer, plenty of chips, cereal, rice, dry pasta, tomato sauce. The selection of fruits and vegetables varies daily. There are cookies, chocolate, an okay selection of bread with baguettes and various rolls. But here's the kicker, protein. There's really just one frozen section that has a variety of different meats. I haven't seen anybody buy any of the meat, so I'm not sure how good the turnover is. That's all you've got to work with unless you want to go over to the deli counter and get some sliced meats or cheese. So needless to say, if you want to have a nice big meal for everybody at your apartment rental, it's going to be a struggle. You don't have as many options as you would at another resort.
You do, don't let go.